studio in a while.
We haven't
Mike.
seen Mike in a while. We ain't seen the studio in a
I
while.
haven't seen the studio in a while. There's some new names written on things.
I was gonna say, so this everybody signs when they.
Yeah, they signed the wall.
You didn't sign it the
like,
last time you was here?
I was in and out, man.
Oh,
was in and out?
Okay,
in and
okay.
out.
Flights to catch. That's what it is. Flights to catch.
Where were you at
When I was here?
Yeah.
Or just today?
today?
Oh, California.
Oh, okay.
That's good, man. That West Coast love. California, they're responsible for so many good things. One thing that they're not really good at lately is baseball. And as you can see, I have on the Astros mask because the Astros are the greatest team, period.
We're not on, right?
Oh, we're on.
We're on.
Oh, all right. I was about
We're
to say
on.
something.
Oh,
I was
you
about to
can say it.
I was about to say something about Cali, but me.
You can say it,
Oh,
but,
yeah,
you know.
This might be our year for Houston. The Astros. James Harden says the Rockets are going to do it. I don't know if I believe
That's
him,
not gonna happen.
but he said he's
I
going to.
watched the Clippers and Lakers last night.
Die.
Yeah.
Nobody close to them.
Nobody
Yeah.
closer than?
Yeah.
The Clippers. Bruh.
Nobody close to either one of those.
Yeah.
Teams.
Yeah, the Clippers is out here, man.
So I think the Western Conference final will be.
It's going to be the
Who gonna
finals. Yeah.
That makes sense. It
I
could
feel
be.
like anything
more than
can-
welcome to.
Anything can happen in the bubble, though.
Anything can
Like,
happen.
I'm
in the
impressed they
bubble.
was able to get that bubble off.
Oh, this
I
is
didn't. I
hella
didn't.
weird.
I didn't.
It is kind of weird.
Like listening to y'all through here.
Yeah.
I was surprised they was able to get the bubble off.
I'm
Like,
surprised.
I didn't think they'd be able to do it.
I don't think they'd be able to do it either. But, I mean, it's working so far. You
Yeah.
know?
I
So-
think in baseball is the only people that have been like, oh, they've had some outbreaks. But,
I mean, so just imagine what football gonna be like.
man, I can't see football happening.
I can't see football happening
Right.
either.
I legitimately cannot see football. Like, football, basketball was a stretch for me, but they've really handled it well. I mean, except for your boy that went to Magic City.
Yeah.
But, and even, you know what, even that fact, the fact that they caught him,
Exactly.
that says something.
Yeah.
I mean, shouts out to your boy that posted him on Instagram, but,
Jack Harlow posted
Yeah.
him.
But the whole point is they were still able to catch him.
Yeah.
Baseball, they've had a couple of outbreaks. I don't know how football gonna get done.
I mean, I think the only way to do it is how basketball is doing it. Like you literally they're isolated in this space
Yeah.
for the whole time.
Yeah.
So I don't see any other way to make it happen.
And then I'm thinking about the rosters for football. You're just talking about more people. You're talking about more contact. You're talking about I don't know.
Yeah, especially if they pile upon you.
I'm not even thinking that. I'm thinking just more so like you get done with say practice or training camp or whatever. You go home or do whatever you do. Kind of like the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with what's his name for the basketball player.
Yeah.
He goes to pick up some food or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he could.
And he-
Pick up
and-
some food.
And he
Yeah.
said he did it. He said he did his on that other dude said he was like it was on accident. The one that got the DoorDash. There was another one that went and got DoorDash, and he's like, "Oh, I just crossed the line. It was on accident." And they already said, a lot of basketball players in there were like, "Oh, well, there's a secret way to get door." I was like, "Yo,"
they gonna figure it out.
I'm like, "Come on now,
They
people
young,
gonna
though, too.
figure out how to get in." And
When
out
you're
the bubble.
famous, ain't no secrets. You put it on Instagram. Everybody knows.
People
That's
gonna
so
figure out how
dumb.
to get out the bubble. Oh no, there are definitely secrets. I mean, what I'm saying somebody.
Ain't no secrets. Secrets last about a week. Then they done for.
I feel like the secrets last as long as they need them to last. I mean, if the secrets last till the end of the season, they good.
There ain't no secret.
Yeah.
People protecting it then. But it's good to see these entrepreneurs out here, these young black men. Speaking of black and ugly as ever, however I stay, Houston down to my socks. It's once again, in my humble opinion, podcast. This time it's not the at-home edition. We're actually in studio. I'm your host, Avery like a very nice guy, Avery like a very nice guy, at a very nice guy 777. Yes, that's me. That's me,
right.
Avery. Also, we have the co-host with us, my brother. He's my blood brother. Doe Beasley was like, "Wait, that's your real brother?" I'm like, "Bro, you know us."
Genuinely surprised at the number of people that go, "Oh wait, that's your brother," and I'm like, we called each other brothers, and they just thought it was like a euphemism
we're black.
thing. I don't know what it is. I'm genuinely surprised though. A number of people are like, "What?
That's your
Y'all are brothers?"
This is my brother over here, Just Devon. Yep.
I said that. That's a picture of us in the logo.
Yeah. Just Devon. Just Devon. We are straight out of here, straight out of H-Town. H-Town, H-Town, H-Town too sweet, H-Town too sweet. Once again, In My Humble Opinion podcast, and we have a special guest with us today. All right, so now, we're all products of the hip-hop generation, no matter if you're black, blue, orange, or green. A piece of being a part of the hip-hop generation is slang. So we're all familiar and we know what slang is, I imagine. Google, because I Googled it, defines slang as a type of language that consists of words and phrases that are regarded as very informal and are more common in speech than writing. Also, it's basically using words that have one meaning and using it for another. Like, baller, throw, cap, no cap, gang, gang, low key, T, et cetera, et cetera. Period. But one of the most...
You put the T on it.
Yeah, period. But one of the most famous uses of slang or words in slang is gas. Now, we're not talking about that 93 octane petroleum. We're talking about Chiba, herb, grass, Aunt Mary, marijuana. Today, we have the God, the gas God with us in the studio. Now, while others lock you up and they want to corner the industry, this man, a black man, is out here who took it upon himself to start a lifestyle brand. All right, T-shirts, products, everything when it comes to the marijuana business. A wine enthusiast, a fitness, a cannabis, and an art enthusiast as well. A man who wants legalization of marijuana within reason, and also a friend of friends of the show like Jack Freeman, Lenora, to name a few. Some hopefuls that will have to be friends of the show. Also, Scarface, who is the greatest rapper of all time. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I believe that. Mike Epps, etc. A man that questions everything. An entrepreneur and the creator of Gas Gods, Ed. The Gas God. Ed the God. There you go. Ed. Come on. Yeah.
Ed the God.
Did a lot of homework.
Ed the God. ED. Extra dank.
Dang.
How you doing, brother?
I'm hard on yourself.
Man.
You did a lot of homework there, man. I'm like, sheesh. Yeah. I'm Ed, Gas Gods. I'm here in Houston, Texas. Hopefully, all over Texas and the U.S. So we starting here though. Taking the California. I'm from Northern California originally. Kind of want to bring some of that influence here to Texas. Been here since '06, so I'm thrust into the culture here. And
Well, let's talk about Northern California.
Yeah.
Like what part of California?
so I
you
grew up
from?
in San Francisco.
Hey.
Yeah, from the Bay Area. It's funny being here too. Like people ask me all the time, like, "You're from San Francisco?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they never think I'm from San Francisco. It's always like, "You got to be from around San Francisco."
That's interesting because I'm pretty sure we're going to get into it later because people do not associate San Francisco with black people anymore. Like they don't associate it because we've been pushed out.
Rightfully so now, right? So we're probably about 3% black.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, now.
Now, right? But growing up, we had black folks.
Yeah.
We had black folks.
Yeah.
And two being so I'm from Hunters Point, Bayview Hunters Point, which is southeast San Francisco, which we're black people. We're totally isolated from the rest of San Francisco. So if you went to San Francisco at any point, on vacation, you're not coming to southeast San Francisco. Yeah, you had no reason to. So I could see why people never, associate even back in the day with black folks. We were totally isolated. That's kind of and then you kind of another thing people always ask me. They think San Francisco is so liberal, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's liberal for white folks. It ain't liberal for
Yeah.
I experienced far more racism in San Francisco than I ever have.
And you see that a lot in major tourist cities where even, we know now Chicago is a black city. We know that, but New Orleans and things like that, people know that it's a black city, but they don't really necessarily associate it with that because every time you're seeing video or you're seeing media coming out there, at least back in the day, it was like, oh, this is a party place.
They hiding it.
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah, you just got to go, 8 blocks, and then you see,
right.
it's like, oh, black people live here. So tell us about coming up in San Francisco, and then the changes that were happening in San Francisco as you were growing up there.
I mean, I love San Francisco. Don't get me wrong. I love my childhood there, my young adult life there. But it's changed so much. It's like I feel like a tourist when I go to San Francisco. So just imagine, right? I don't know what part of Houston you guys from.
Sugarland.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say Third Ward, right? My neighborhood is exactly like Third Ward.
Okay.
Right. So you have extreme poverty all the way to black wealth, right? Kind of depend on where you are in the neighborhood. So you grew up there, and you kind of see both sides. You see blacks doing well. You see blacks in extreme poverty, and then as you kind of get older and property values start going up, right? And people start moving out, right? Mm-hmm. so then the neighborhood is kind of left just with impoverished blacks, right? So even the middle class blacks were doing pretty well. Like say your dad was a bus driver and your mom was a school teacher, right? They eventually moved out of San Francisco. They moved to like Antioch or Pittsburgh. As far away as Sacramento. That kind of started happening when I was, in my late teenage years, and you're not really tripping off of it so much, but as you get older and it comes a time when like, okay, now I want to buy a home, right? Well, now a starter house costing you $450,000.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Right. So just imagine buying a fixer upper on Barbie Street by TSU. And you having to come up with $450,000.
Yeah.
Right? And you still got to redo the kitchen and the bathroom. Like, so that's what San Francisco's turned into. So of course, like, you just saw a disbursement of black folks. Like, and it's not just blacks, right? It's middle class period, right? So Latinos, middle class white folks, everybody, they gone. I'll go to the Bay Area now, and I'll be in Sacramento, and I'll see more people I grew up with in Sacramento than I will be when I'm in San Francisco. I have one uncle there, and both my parents and grandparents. Well, my grandparents came when they were, I want to say 18 and 20. They came to San Francisco. Both my parents from San Francisco. They're gonna have one uncle that's still there.
And that's wild. That's wild. That the property
just took over the city, man.
Yeah.
I'll see more people I know in Atlanta that I grew up with in San Francisco in Atlanta than I will in San Francisco.
Because everybody
here went to Atlanta too, so it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's wild. But yeah, man, childhood was good there. Of course, there was a huge, cannabis culture in the Bay Area.
Really?
Huge. Like, as far as I can remember. So the funny thing is, I didn't indulge in marijuana at all. I was scared to do drugs. Like, I didn't drink alcohol. I remember getting shoulder surgery. I wouldn't take the pain pills.
What?
Yeah, I grew up in. You gotta remember. So I'm born in '74. So my childhood was the '80s. Yeah. Right? We all know the '80s. That was like the crack epidemic was bad, and my father was he lost everything. I see my dad lose everything. 2 homes. He had a record shop before. When the record shops was cool. Before Tower Records hit, he had a record shop, and I saw him lose all this because of drugs. So I was like absolutely afraid to do drugs.
Ah, okay.
So I always thought my way out was gonna be football. So I wound up going to. I didn't have grades. So after high school, I wound up going to community college. So I went to San Francisco City College. If y'all check out the Netflix special, Last Chance You. Yeah, they doing Laney College right now over in Oakland, and you'll see they play City College. And if you kind of catch it, you'll see like all the championships from City College. So from like the '80s up, and I want to say all the way until like the early 2000s, we were a powerhouse. So I was there playing ball, but I was making terrible decisions, right? So you got to remember. So my father's on drugs, right, and my mother never really had a great relationship. So I was pretty much raised with my grandparents from 12 on. Mm-hmm. So now I'm at City College, right, which is like the Florida State or University of Miami of junior college football. But on the field, I'm doing great, but I'm making all the wrong decisions off the field. So a buddy of mine was going to school up in Mendocino, Ukiah, California, which is part of the Emerald Triangle. So I go up there, I'm killing in football, but I notice, right, like I got teammates, their parents, their grandparents growing marijuana, right? So I'm like,
Now you're saying, like at that point, you're saying this is a culture for everybody.
I mean, it's like
it's like a family thing.
You be in Ukiah, bro, and like how we're sitting here now, like it'll be a bowl of bud on the coffee table. Like,
Okay.
you know, somebody's mother's asking you, like, hey, you want to
What
you wanna hit the
size
bone?
bowl?
Like, just like, you know how you kind of got the fruit bowl or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it just,
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
People
you see
just displaying
jars.
it.
It just, I mean,
Wow.
just marijuana was just everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
it was like,
Man.
like oranges or some shit, right? It was all over the place. So I decided, our quarterback at the time, his dad was big time up there. So he fronted me some bud. He fronted me some bud. I took it down back to my neighborhood in San Francisco, and kind of the rest was history. That was 1994. In 96, California went medical, so that's when you first start seeing the dispensaries pop up. And I kind of just figured a way to like broker deals from some of the dispensaries in San Francisco, parts of Oakland, dealing directly with the growers. So it's kind of how I got my start.
So let's talk about that, because you're saying like in '94, that's when you're first starting to get into it. In '96, that's when they start to introduce medical
Medical marijuana.
What
yeah.
is because we're basically talking about a black market existence and then a kind of
black market-
semi-legal.
The black market is always
Exactly.
Is-
So
yeah.
so let's talk about the changes that are happening that are around you as this is going on. As they introduce medical marijuana, what's starting to happen?
you're starting to see. Well, it's still so the medical thing. It was really easy to get a card, right? So from the consumer standpoint, it made things a lot easier. From a more of the business side of it, it was it didn't really change anything, right? Because what you did was, so let's just say, for example, I was a grower, right? And I have a card. I have my medical card, my license, the so-called license to grow, right? So then you get a card, and I was only allowed to grow. We only 99 plants per card holder, right? That was kind of the standard back in the day, and kind of depending on what county you were in. But you got to remember, I'm in Mendocino County, so they were going to be on the extreme end of things. So I'd have 99 plants up there. I'd have you with a card under kind of my cooperative. So I got 99 plants for you. I got 9, and I would just kind of pay you, after every harvest, give you a couple grand or whatever.
And I'm about to say 99 plants. What's that yielding? Like what is that in perspective wise?
So in those days before, like you had these. So let's just say it's 1998, right? And we growing. We three of us have 99 plants, and you're going to yield typically outdoors 5 to 12 pounds per plant.
Okay.
So now you do the math,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So then we kind of you start talking about the underground stuff, right? So then you say, okay, well back in those days, a pound might cost you $4,000, right? And if you could get it to somewhere like say Houston, Texas, right, it's going for $7,500. So what you started to see was the closer we got to, let's call it recreational use or recreational legalization, you start seeing those margins shrink drastically. Okay. Right, so now it's kind of it's a plus and a minus. I literally was having a conversation with somebody on Instagram this morning, and they were talking about legalization being a bad thing for the mom and pop, and that was my stance, right? So that's probably what you kind of, when you were doing the homework, you probably saw me talking about screw legalization, and I still feel that way to a certain extent. But now I just understand what we need to be asking for, right? As minorities and small mom and pop
That's
business.
what we wanted to have you on, because you and I talked about that as well, where it's we want to talk about, like when he was talking about in his introduction, the kind of marginalization of certain communities. There's no getting around it. Marijuana is just gonna become legal.
It's gonna
At
happen.
some point, it's gonna be legal.
It's gonna happen.
There's also no getting around it. One particular race has by and large received the most detriment for the illegality of marijuana. So we're talking about African Americans are in jail and have received the most punishment for marijuana. And now we are seeing Caucasians getting the most benefit from the legalization.
By far.
Right.
So that's what we wanted to talk about. So your stance, even when we talked at the dinner a few weeks ago, was you were wary of the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah, it's a fine line, man, and if we're not careful, we're gonna get left out, right? So just like any other thing, right? We got to learn to evolve too, right? So like you say, it's gonna happen, right? So what is that gonna look like for black folk, right? So one, we got to kind of start coming together more. You have all these, I know so many brothers, man, that have made millions of dollars in marijuana, right? Like no exaggeration, millions of dollars on marijuana, but we not pulling our resources together. We not buying land, right?
Mm-hmm.
we not setting anything up long term. We just kind of like we comfortable because the money's good, right? The money's good, so everybody's just kind of comfortable with the status quo. When I hear whispers all the time about, I ain't gonna say any names, but you hearing, major corporations, they're coming together and they're buying up tons of land in Northern California, even Southern California, Texas, whatever, right? Like, so, I know a white guy in Mississippi who just bought 74 acres of land. He's just waiting for legalization.
Well, it's 74 acres, man.
Yeah,
But
that's nothing though. To be honest with you,
that's
like
small.
That's still kind of sort of mom and pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, we just gotta. So this is what I learned, right? As I kind of started getting serious about, okay, when the farm bill passed, when I started getting serious about getting back on I never really was serious about on the cultivation side.
Well, actually, wait. Let's back up real quick. So when you say the farm bill, can you explain what the farm bill is?
Well, the farm bill basically legalized hemp, right?
Okay.
Legalized hemp to be grown all over the U.S. So the feds now legalize hemp. So that's why y'all seeing CBD and gas stations.
Oh, okay. That's why.
And once you legalize hemp, it's kind of difficult to. It's kind of like a stepping stone to marijuana.
That's what we thinking, right?
Okay.
So we'll see though.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean the mindset changing, right? So now, so even yesterday, I read an article. The Democrats, they not pushing their platform. They're not making legalization part of their platform.
They are not at all
for the election, right? So you start wondering why, right? And, that's a whole nother kind of worms. But as black, we got to truly figure out how are we going to grow with the industry, right? Because we know it's coming, right? So in Texas, right? I learned this. Texas has the largest concentration of black farmers in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Clue. Right. So
clue.
So I'm learning. I was like, so shit. Like agriculture is agriculture, right? So if I could grow, so if you start going to Northern California, right, you're gonna see two things growing. You're gonna see grapes and marijuana. Well, shit. If I could grow watermelons or whatever else,
whatever we grow here. I didn't even know Texas was.
I could grow marijuana.
Yeah, known for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that tells me a ton of black folks in Texas got a ton of land. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So we got to figure out. Okay, now how can we come together some sort of way, right? Whether it be building a cooperative or something, and take advantage of, like, pull our land, pull our resources. We already got farmers. We already got land here. Like, why not? So
now, what do you think are some of the obstacles to? I mean, when we're talking about the legalization, coming from California, you've seen the positives and the negatives of legalization. So when you're looking at other states, and I think right now, what is it, 30 some odd states?
Like 39.
Yeah.
I believe.
30, okay, so
and counting.
And it kind of looks like every state follows a pattern. Like when we look at the numbers for once it is legalized, it'd be like less than 1% are owned by black people, and they are struggling. Like people really look at this like, oh well, I could just sell marijuana, open up a business, and that is not what it is.
The barrier of entry, man, that's the problem. Like the barrier of entry is tough, right? So we got a copy of like if you look at if you look at Los Angeles, I can't speak. Let me just say this: I can't speak to other states, right?
Okay.
So if you look at like Los Angeles, Oakland, San Francisco, I want to say they're doing in Sacramento now. They have what you call equity programs, right? So what the equity program is, you get a grant, right? So they kind of waive in some of those high barriers of entry, so that you can participate in the industry, right? Whether that be on the cultivation side or the dispensary side. So I know a couple of brothers who have dispensaries, and they're doing well. Like we do a delivery service. I do a delivery service based in Northern California as well, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard to keep up with the taxes, the licensing, right? And it's still federally illegal, right? So it's no write-offs, right?
And yeah, let's
no write-offs.
So let's talk about that,
illegal,
because
right?
this is a business, and with business, I mean, people I feel like are familiar now with COVID and people getting federal loans and writing things off. So at the end of the year, you can't write off anything for this business.
No.
You also, in terms of getting bank accounts, FDIC insured. Can you get those?
I mean, all right, let me just say this. All right, there's ways around everything.
Oh, of course, of course.
Right.
It's business.
We understand. We understand.
But legally and honestly, there's still so many things you can't do just because the feds haven't legalized yet, right? So just because your state says it's legal, you still very much limited. And don't get me wrong, like folks are making a lot of money doing it, but you got to kind of set it up properly. So for example, let's say instead of selling marijuana, I was selling soil.
Okay.
So now if I'm selling soil, right, which every grower needs soil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, now I got a tax write off.
Ah,
So you gotta
Okay.
you figure things. That's why I say like we gotta learn how to figure out the game. Man.
Everybody
like,
gotta figure out.
Like so I just read this book called
Chess, not checkers. Man.
Right, we gotta figure out the game, man, and kind of figure out these loopholes, right? Because they taking advantage of them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, even
so
when
why
you
not
said
us?
equity program, I was watching what was it, the business of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they were talking about, and there are a few things I've seen where even
That's the new
also,
one on
that's the new
Netflix,
one on
right.
Netflix.
Yeah.
I haven't
but
seen that one yet.
even when they talk about there are certain, there are businesses that will come in and try to take advantage of the equity programs. Where it's like, I just need a minority face.
Right.
Like
I'm
gonna
glad
come
you brought
in.
that up, right? So
Yeah.
that happens, right?
Yeah.
So that happens. But that happens in every industry, right? But
Absolutely.
That's so. So my thing is kind of like, so do we blame, right? Do we blame them for taking advantage of that, or do we like blame the brother who just let his face be used?
I feel like
Both
there
things
could
can be wrong.
both things
can
could
be right.
wrong. And then the other thing too is
Gray area.
you also want to look into. I like how you're starting this, where it's you really want to look into how these things start when in terms of the laws that we're voting in, the people that we're voting in, to say, I need you looking out for my interest. Like
Period.
that's why I voted you in.
Period.
So when you need to set aside. I mean, my whole thing is if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, like 25% of licenses need to be set aside, bare minimum,
Period.
for
Oh, yeah.
the people that. And I also feel like it's also one of those things where I still disagree. I don't think it should be even legal if you still got people in jail.
In jail and prison.
For it.
Prison.
It makes no
sense,
sense.
right?
And
Yeah.
I'm still pro, like, yo, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But you can't say this is wrong and
then
then
people
have
show
a
up.
whole prison sitting full of people that you're basically like, well, y'all didn't do wrong. Y'all missed the mark.
Right.
Y'all was early.
Yeah.
I
That's
give you
it.
an example, right? So a buddy of mine, he just got pulled over in California. He gets pulled over, license suspended. I think he had like 7 pounds on him, right? So he had 7 pounds of marijuana on him. So they confiscate the marijuana. Actually, now it's only a misdemeanor, but he's facing.
It's only a misdemeanor.
I'm just saying, like, you gotta remember. So I'm 90. I'm a long time, bro. So
7
7
pounds
pounds.
is a misdemeanor?
7 pounds would have got you some time back in the
Exactly.
day, right?
Yes.
So,
So
so,
you're
yeah, right. See,
Prison
like,
time.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, it's only a
so
misdemeanor.
It's only a misdemeanor now.
that's
There's a lot of brothers that's like, whew, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's still a detriment too, because now guess what he can't do?
Open up a dispensary.
Open up. He
Get a
can't legally get involved in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
now.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Right. So we kind of like but just think about this. So he get caught with 7 pounds, right? He gets caught with 7 pounds. They give him a misdemeanor, and then I think they're trying to charge him with transporting or kind of like intent to distribute type of situation, right? When that's kind of the
Attack
the
on everything.
right. But like so I'm saying to myself like, man, what if he would have got caught with 7 cases of vodka?
Yeah,
Nothing would have happened.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, so that's kind of why my stance kind of start changing about legalization. It's like, man, they still fucking us though, right? And so we got to get to a point where it's legal, but the legalization benefits us. So the only reason I even put that post up from that article yesterday about Democrats was because I hear so many of us. I know so many of us are just voting Democrat just
Yeah.
because, and we not even.
Yeah, because our grandma taught us.
Yeah, right. We're not even questioning.
Absolutely.
Are they really pushing our agendas? Right. So for me, right, it sounds good when you just say, okay, we want to make sure all the people get out of prison, that are in prison for marijuana. That's not enough for me. right? Like that's
No,
cool.
I understand.
Right? That's
It's a start.
yeah. That's it's
But
a start.
there needs to be pathways.
Right?
There
Yeah.
has to be
Yeah. I'm
pathways
talking.
to
Like, how do
something.
we benefit financially though? Right?
Yeah.
Because now you got all these brothers coming home, right? Coming home from marijuana, but now what they gonna do though?
Exactly.
Right? If I was licensed and I had a huge marijuana business, I could get some of these brothers jobs, right? And
Yeah.
some of these sisters jobs. So we gotta figure out what the fuck to ask for, man. That's my thing. And if we gotta be voting for people like you say, voting for people who pushing our agendas.
Because you see across the board, I mean, even when we're talking about big time Republicans and Democrats, but I mean, it kind of gets disingenuous when you see a lot of Republicans where it's, I spent my whole career putting people in jail and speaking out against marijuana, and now I'm on the board of a marijuana company.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, well, I looked at the science and things changed, and I was like, I'm completely fine with people changing their mind. I looked at the science and things changed, but I also need you on the forefront of saying, and I need to get all them people that I wronged.
Yeah.
Like I wronged people. People have
Be
lost
accountable.
For generations.
years
Yes.
of their life.
Not even years. Families have been
Families.
destroyed.
Completely.
Communities have been
Completely.
destroyed. Like, I mean, come on. We're criminalized as a people, period. And marijuana is one of the many reasons why we're criminalized as a people. So yeah, they need to do something and straighten that out.
And even when you talk about stuff like just the criminalization, like a lot of these, when we talk about interactions now, especially now, because it's prevalent in the news, the interactions between the police and African Americans, let's be real, a lot of cops are going in cars because they're looking for marijuana. They're looking
Yes.
for drugs.
All day.
Yes.
So many cops. When I've been pulled over, it's just been a normal, like, oh, well, this is a normal traffic stop, but can I search?
The dog. So my buddy, he gets pulled over. The dog's right there.
Yeah.
The dog
Yeah.
waiting.
They're
to go.
ready.
He waiting to go into it. He just got the green light because he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
Right, his license
That's
suspended.
it.
So now it's like
They got probable cause
You
now.
don't need to pull
Yeah.
out the dog.
Yeah.
Like go through your.
So, I mean, we're talking about things that would be minor traffic stops, minor offenses that are getting ramped up because people are either looking for drugs or they're finding drugs or they're whatever. And it's like, I mean, if this was the 1920s, that's where the mob came in the 1920s when Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Yes.
This is the second prohibition.
But this is literally all it is. It's like we drive home, you can have a trunk full of vodka and nobody would say anything. But if this was 1920, that's a big deal. And it's like, and now we don't look at vodka as anything. It's just it's a thing.
Right.
It's like if you
Go
want
to
to
the
drink
store
it,
and get it.
and also we still look at it as like there are definitely people that have problems with vodka.
Bruh.
We say, hey man, if you have a problem, we can help you. But we don't say everybody that's got vodka got to go to jail. Like we don't say that. And so that's the thing about marijuana, that it's just, it feels like we're at a turning point, but I'm like you. We have to be real cautious about what we want out of this.
Right. Yeah, we definitely got. My thing is, man, we got to be part of the financial. Like that's kind of my whole thing is like this is all good with like letting everybody. Don't get me wrong, I want to see brothers come home too, but like how do we benefit financially
Absolutely.
from this industry, right? So in long term, not just like today I was in that conversation before my flight. And me and him were debating. His thing was like, well, I'm gonna make this last run, and then I'm gonna have to figure something else out. I'm like, you've been doing this a long time. Why does it got to be your last run?
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how about like let's change the mindset and make this a long term thing, right? Like why just kind of give away? Kind of like how we like my neighborhood gave away. Right?
Yes.
We gave away the neighborhood
Yeah.
basically. Like it's just like we kind of just start moving
Because
away.
if you don't have a
Let 'em have
footing,
it.
if you don't have a footing, it just goes away.
So-
And it'd be nice if people, I mean, it's funny because we already know in 50 years there's going to be a weed equivalent of like a Jose Cuervo commercial.
Oh man,
Like the most interesting man in the world. And it's just going to be a guy smoking weed and nobody's going to bat an eye. But there's a lot of pain behind that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that's just like, and so I'm with you on, we have to figure out some ways to get behind the financial. So what are some of your thoughts on getting behind that?
Well, so my thing is like the equity program. I'm big on the equity program, but like so in Chicago, right? I remember I think it was Chicago was it a year or two ago. They're basically their politicians were saying no to legalization until it benefits the community, our community.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of got to be the stance here, right? no on marijuana until it benefits us. So we, like you say, like it could be something as simple as the licensing needs to reflect the community in which the licenses are being distributed. So let's say we talk about the third ward, right? So how will we allow, like, let's say they're going to give away 5 licenses to that particular neighborhood, right? So how many of those licenses go to African Americans?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we got to come with like real,
Yeah, absolutely.
real situation like that. Sugarland, right? They're going to do 10 licenses over there. Like how many
How
of
is
those
they
licenses? Yeah, like we got to kind of like that rudimentary type of mindset. Like, okay, a certain percentage of licenses got to go to African Americans, right?
Like affirmative action.
Yeah, like affirmative.
Makes
It got to be that.
It
like,
has to be that. That's punishment.
yeah, and if it's
Yeah.
not that, then
Then what do we,
legalization.
yeah. What's it looking at?
Yeah,
So it would be a fight against legalization unless these things are going to occur.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we're going to get left in the dust.
So this is the scary part though, right? So I don't know when you talk to your friends, right? Most of my friends black, when I talk to them about legalization, they can't wait for legalization.
Yeah, all
they
my
not even
friends.
questioning like what it's gonna look like. And even in California, right? I remember in '96, I remember people saying, my elders telling me like, legalization not gonna be good. Medical marijuana not gonna be good. And I was like, what you mean it's not gonna be good? like I could drive around,
Smoke a blunt. And,
smoke a blunt, have a
yeah.
gang of weed with me, and I'm not gonna get arrested, right? Because my mind was I was in a different place mentally. So that's how they're only looking at it from a consumer standpoint, right? We got to start being on the forefront of like building wealth, man, and like what does this wealth building look like, and who's more deserving than us than to benefit financially?
I'm saying.
from marijuana.
We promoted it more than anybody.
Anybody. I mean,
Like,
like
yeah.
every rap song,
Bruh.
right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
all day, every day, we talking about. Well, we literally only talking about it from a consumer standpoint, and then we're only talking about from a distribution and a growing. We're not talking about, it's an industry now, right? So I meet attorneys, like marijuana attorneys now. You got CPAs, you got all kind of jobs and careers that could benefit from marijuana. Not solely just not solely just selling weed and growing weed. We got to start looking at all that. So
A whole industry.
a whole industry.
A whole
Absolutely.
entire
It's a whole industry.
Now, it's one of those things, too. You're from California. Of all the states to look at, why Texas?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's a great question.
No, I mean, just,
so
yeah.
people think I'm crazy when I say this, right? I think Texas is gonna outproduce California one day.
I'm with you.
Why? Why do you think that?
Cost of land,
Okay.
labor cheaper, no state tax.
Yeah.
Like you already seen in other industries.
That makes perfect sense.
I'll
Like
take
where
it-
Tesla going?
I'll take it.
Yeah, Austin.
I'll take it one step further because people disagree with me. I think that, and I don't like them, but I think Republicans will be on the forefront of it because they're the party of business and money.
Yeah.
Which
that
is
makes
why
perfect sense.
I also think they need to be kept in check in terms of it because people have always been like, it would never happen here. Texas is so conservative.
I still hear that, man. It make me so mad.
Texas
Right.
is liberals.
Man,
It's not
it
that
make me so
Texas.
mad.
It's not that Texas is liberal. Texas
Okay.
is about
Money.
making money, and I feel like because Texas has been on the forefront of this is wrong, but when you see some of these Republican senators and they've staunch, I mean, we're talking about since the 70s. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And then they've quietly
They're changing their
just
mind.
been on the I'm on the board. It's a young board. I'm the guy on it, and we have a $8 million marijuana business, and nobody really pushes them on. Hey man, for 30 years, you've been putting people in jail, and it's just like, well, that was
That was then.
That was then.
Yeah.
and then just happens to be like yesterday.
Yeah.
Sound
It
like
was
your,
last year.
Sound like your boy who passed that crime bill.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Look, these are things where
We forgive and forget.
it's not even, and it's not even that. It really kind of highlights the fact that I feel like we as a people need to be more issue focused and issue driven as opposed to personality focused.
Right.
There are a lot of personalities
Preach.
that we feel like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, I'm disappointed in the Democratic Party that they're like, yo, we're not going to run forward with this platform because this is a platform, one, that you could really put in, but it's like, well, that's not going to help us win. So we're not like, okay, so if you don't feel this will help us win, then what you're saying is you feel that this does not help out the self-interest of people that I represent.
Yeah.
Because there are people that, I mean, black people are in jail because of this.
Yeah.
So you need to be coming up with plans like, this is how I can help black people get out. This is how I can help African Americans get business. This is how I can help out. And, you know, high tide raises all ships. Like, this will help everybody.
Right.
You know, eventually, all the reports that were coming out of Colorado when it happened was just like, oh, it's going to be bad. Oh, it's going to be bad. And then it's like, oh,
Look
the
what
school district
happened.
got too much money.
Yeah.
You got tour. You got
Look
tour.
what happened.
They got a whole tourism industry now.
Yeah,
based
yeah,
on
yeah.
Like I hear people all the time.
Colorado.
I'm going to Colorado.
Exactly.
I'm like,
On vacation.
Yeah.
10 years ago,
in the summer.
Yeah.
You'd have never said that. 10 years ago, people would
No.
be like, nah, I don't want to do that.
This also might, and I'm not one of those people, but I mean, I also feel like marijuana should be legalized just so it can be, we don't even study it. Like, in terms of, like, federal government, since it's illegal, we can't study it for any positives.
Yeah,
we can't
they
study
study
it for
They study it. They study
I'm talking
like,
about
so-
at a federal level. Like, it's still scheduled. It's a
Yeah,
schedule.
It's still scheduled. Well,
Was that a 2?
Schedule
It
2?
was a schedule 1. I don't know if it's been descheduled. Kinda like,
It's like up there with cocaine.
Yeah, it's up there with
Used to
cocaine.
be.
So that's one.
So it's one of those things where
it
it's
was
like,
a schedule 1 drug. I don't
Yeah,
know if
so
it's
that's
still
one.
schedule 1.
Yeah, that's one.
so the positives and negatives of that is, I mean, you get people that'll say, hey, this will cure everything. And you can't disprove that. And then you get people that'll say, oh, this will cure nothing. And you can't disprove that.
Like my mom. I love you, mommy.
She gets
Did
real
y'all,
mad.
did y'all
she
know
get
this?
real mad about the marijuana.
I learned this a couple years ago. I'm in Mississippi a lot now, right? So I'm at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has had a marijuana research program since 1968.
There are a few.
I heard that
state
from you,
schools-
though.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes, yes.
68.
I have heard that, and so that's
Crazy,
the thing.
right?
that's insane.
That
Did
that
the
is
study.
insane. Where it's like, but I mean, really, watch that. The business of
I seen that. I
drugs.
just haven't watched it yet.
The business.
Because they
of
talking about all
drugs,
kind of drugs, right?
every episode is its own. They're talking about a different drug.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing about that is they really analyze. The lady just talks about, hey, look, I used to be a part of the war on terror.
Oh,
And
I did see that.
I did that for
I
years.
saw that one. I
And
saw
she's
that
like,
one. She's talking about it kind of from like the.
she's talking about it completely from an economic standpoint.
Yeah. I did see that.
Completely economic. I think the interesting thing about the marijuana one was that she's like, even when, and you kind of said that, a lot of the marijuana still operates on the black market, even in the legal.
No.
Most
93%
of it. Yeah.
of the marijuana still operates illegal.
So I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, even in a state where we're talking about it's illegal in California, it's still pretty much a black market product.
Yeah, even in California, the majority of the marijuana that's moved is moved on the black market.
Wow, man.
I mean, just think about it like this, right? Realistically, like until the market corrects itself, right? Why would I go to a dispensary to buy what I could get? Let me back up a little bit. So first of all, it was already an illegal culture, right? So people were used to buying this on the black market anyway, right? So they already had a sense of comfort and trust buying it illegally anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So now you introduce the dispensary, right? Now it's a fucking high-ass sales tax, right? So I'm paying almost double what I'll be paying in the black market for the same product.
Really?
Ah, okay.
So why am I going to a dispensary?
Yeah.
Right? You got to, like, for real. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Why would I go to the dispensary if I could?
That's just a market.
I pay
Yeah.
much more for an eighth than I can
Man,
if I
yeah.
go to Corey.
Man, bro, I'll dig it even deeper than that. Like what you would pay for, I just be hearing things, right? So what
Yeah.
you pay for an eighth in Houston, Texas, is a little less than you for. Let's just say it's top shelf, right? Let's say you buying they call it Zaza exotic, right? If you're buying an eighth of exotic in Houston, it'll cost you about $10 less than it will in California where it was grown.
Really?
Now, why am I going through the dispensary?
For what?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So even I kind of laugh sometimes even when I hear people say, "I'm going to Colorado, I'm going to get some weed," and I'll be like, "For what?" like, I still don't. I'm like, why? But I get it. They want that whole experience.
They
They
want the
go there,
experience of going
go to the
Disneyland.
store. Yeah, go to the store.
And being able to purchase it legally.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah.
on
I mean, really, when it
shelves.
comes down to it, legal, knowing what you're getting, we're seeing the rise of.
It's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
you said, it's gonna happen, right? And what I'm saying, I'm just saying it from a perspective of there was already this trust in the culture anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, most people, even if you go sometimes to a dispensary, right? I know people every now and then, you know, kind of when they got a little extra money or whatever they want, a specific product, they'll go to the dispensary. Usually it's for like some type of edible or, you know, something different like a dab or something like that. They'll go to the dispensary. But for the most part, they still on the streets buying it. And I shouldn't even say the streets because that's really kind of not how it's done anymore. But
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Okay. So let's talk about then you coming up with the lifestyle brand, just gas gods in general.
Man,
With that nice shirt you got there, brother.
Yes.
I have
Nice
to get
shirt.
y'all some. I have to get y'all some shirts.
Thank you.
I'm coming from the airport, so I couldn't.
It's all good, man. It's
okay,
all
it's
good.
okay.
My bad.
We appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, we really do.
So it was me just realizing. So first of all, I've been here technically since 2006, and there's never really been a marijuana culture. Like we talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really a culture, right? There's definitely a drink culture here, right? Like when I came here, that was you see that
Yeah.
you know, the styrofoam cup with the purple, you know,
Yeah.
but there was never really truly a marijuana culture here. So my thing was like, why not create a lifestyle brand to kind of, you know, put that marijuana influence into the culture. Like, you know, everybody doing it, right? You know, like you'd be amazed at, you know, some of the people I talked to, like when you were talking about Republicans, right? Immediate thought came to my head was like, shit, I won't say the name, but I'm a member at a cigar lounge, right? One of the most conservative environments you could be in, right? And they're talking about marijuana now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and these not black, these are older, conservative white folk.
Wow.
I think it took a little bit for a lot of the stigma to get taken off because a lot of people just heard stuff and, you know, look, man, there was a lot of all of us watched that stuff as kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know what was going on, man, they told you just say no. They told you
Yeah, of course.
all this stuff was going to happen and people was jumping out of windows and whatnot,
Right.
like that kind of thing. And then
All
you're
the
like,
bad
yeah.
PR. Remember that terrible episode of the Wayans Bros where Marlon was acting crazy?
I
I was
think-
like, I'll never smoke weed.
I think every sitcom
wrong.
that I liked had a drug
to
episode,
scare you.
and usually one focused pretty much on marijuana.
Yeah.
Because everybody
Like, that
know,
was the
everybody
thing.
do it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who didn't go to college and try weed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
Except
was
me,
one of
who-
those things.
Except me, who was scared as hell.
You're
Right.
You're dope if you use dope.
Yeah, that's really what it was. So now that stigma is coming off it, and I mean, let's be honest, that stigma is coming off it because a different group of people is pushing it.
Yeah.
It's,
Pushing that agenda,
now
right?
they're like, oh,
crazy.
okay, this is a little bit different. It's like
It's like guns. Happens all the time.
The documentaries I see, weed stores look like the Apple store in Colorado,
That's how they-
and
Vegas.
in Vegas, and it can't. And it's like, well, okay, because when I was coming up, they was telling you like they're gonna push it on you and da da da. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
That never happened.
They
Nobody
gonna try
ever
to
offered
they
me
gonna
free
try,
drugs.
They gonna try to convince you to it was
that
right,
never
yeah.
happened.
The first one's free.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't
That-
even good business.
My mom told
This is
us.
a horrible
you know what-
business
Our mom
decision.
told us that.
But you
and
know
I
where the
never
first
got.
one. But you know where the first one is free, right?
Why?
At the dispensary.
Wow.
Go to it. Like when I remember this, bro. In '96, you go into a dispensary and you might buy something, and they're gonna give you like a pre-roll or something. They're gonna give you some kind of discount for your first purchase. It was always some kind of gimmick with your first purchase.
Crazy.
Right.
So these are the same people that told us
Yeah.
not to do that, and then
I didn't really think about that till you
they
just said that.
they did it.
They
wow.
did it.
These people are.
It's just it is
Interesting.
what it is.
I'll tell you a funny story, then I get into the brand more so. But like so a friend of mine that her father was a drinker, smoker, like cigarettes, right? Smoked a lot of cigarettes, drank a lot of liquor. But their mom had convinced them that marijuana killed their father because he smoked weed too. Right?
Bruh.
So I'm like, wait a minute. You telling me? So I kind of, you don't want to laugh because her father's passed, right? So you don't want to laugh. So I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm like scratching my head, like, wait a minute.
She
saying
listens.
your father
No,
was-
she don't. But
Your father was on alcohol and cigarettes, but the weed killed him,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I had to literally some of these Netflix specials, I literally had to kind of sit her down, like, watch this. Just kind of like, I'm not telling you what to think. Just open your mind to thinking differently about what you were raised to believe, right? And now she's like, oh my God. And she let her mom. Now her mom is like, yeah, I was tripping. Right? Like I was
And
tripping.
but that takes a lot for somebody to
Yeah.
be like, hey, this is something I've known it all my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like it's the same. Like if we went back to the 30s, I know people was out there like, yo, that liquor will kill you.
Right.
You. And they was like, yeah, it can. It can kill some people. But for the most part,
No.
y'all will be fine. And then that's it. And to legalize liquor, which, I mean, just by all scientific purposes, is a much more damaging drug
Right.
than marijuana.
Surely is.
Cigarettes are a much more. The fact that you have cigarette companies that are positioning themselves in Canada and getting ready to pivot now that the cigarette business is going down, and they're waiting.
I met a guy. On a plane from South Carolina. He was South Carolina. I had a layover in Atlanta. He has a ton of acreage and he grows tobacco in South Carolina. As soon as I can, I'm putting down marijuana.
Yeah.
Obviously, this
That's
man
what
was white.
That's what. That's,
Oh, yeah.
but that's what they're waiting on, because it's
Yeah.
like now that there's no stigma and I see that I can make money off it, and I don't have to worry about getting sued and what. I mean, every major cigarette company
Oh, it's only,
has licensed marijuana brands just waiting.
So
Like,
even
they're
so
like, we're
even
waiting.
so even so I'm a cigar enthusiast too, right? So even being a cigar enthusiast and kind of just how you store tobacco, how we talk about tobacco, how you grow tobacco, has so many parallels to marijuana,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they already have equipment, right?
They got it
Farmers,
all.
They got it all
They're
to make
prepared.
the they prepared,
Yeah.
right? So we don't get it twisted. We got a lot of uphill battles to
Oh,
fight
yeah.
to, you know what I'm saying, to
Absolutely.
get our piece of the pie, but it could be done. We just you just kind of got to be willing to go for the fight. So kind of that kind of leads me to like why I started the brand, right? So my thing was, okay, we know it's coming, right? We know that marijuana gonna be legal even in Texas, right? Even all people here tell you we gonna be the absolute last state, it ain't gonna never happen, right? We know it's coming now. So my thing was, let's kind of get a start now instead of waiting. For permission, so to speak. Let's start it now. Let's start
Be innovative.
push the ball now. So like at least we got brand awareness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
At the least we have brand awareness when it comes, and then we have somewhat. I ain't gonna say advantage, but kind of at least kind of levels the playing field, and that's why I've been going so hard with the brand. Trying to tie in the arts, right? Music, food. Because it just all that stuff just pairs with marijuana. How many music producers don't smoke weed, right?
I mean,
A billion.
How many artists? How many artists?
Yeah. Actually, let's talk
everybody
about.
knows.
Let's show your Instagram page, because we can see a little bit about what you're trying to craft. Which, I mean, that last post is the Democrats rejecting legalization.
That's Slim Thug right
But
there.
we're seeing people on here. We got Slim Thug.
I'm gonna delete that too, by the way, because that kind of messed up my aesthetic. But whatever.
But I mean, yeah. And we've seen other artists from here. Like we mentioned Jack Freeman.
Yep.
We mentioned
Chelsea.
Lenora.
Yeah.
You're reaching out to artists that are out here in the Houston area, and you're presenting it as a lifestyle brand. This is not, some kind of hidden thing where you
No.
go around
Yeah,
corners.
we want to elevate it, man. We
Yeah.
want to like I tell people all the time. Like I get this question too, right? Back home, people are like, "Well, who are you marketing to?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I don't understand. I don't understand the question. Like, no, who are you? What's the demographic of people you trying to market to?" I was like, "Shit, everybody smoke weed."
Yeah.
What you mean? Like, I don't. Why I gotta limit it to a certain type of person? Everybody.
I got you.
Everybody.
Yeah,
So
these
and when I say everybody, I don't mean literally every person smoke weed, but I mean every type of person smoke
Yeah.
weed. So
Yeah.
so for me, right, it's like, why not elevate the culture, so it's not, we not just only like, so for me, what I kind of hate is too many times I see the minority brands, they kind of pushing that, I want to call it ghetto, that kind of like more hood.
Trap.
I understand.
Yeah.
like that, like it's not like if I'm a black doctor, I don't want to be associated
No.
with
I got
said
you.
brand, right? So I'm kind of trying to push more of like, I could be a doctor,
Yeah.
I could be a rapper, I could be a whatever, and this brand is still cool.
Sounds
right?
good.
Yeah.
Gas
Yeah.
guys instead of something like hood smoke. I don't want that.
Hood Smoke coming for you.
So
man.
you know we trying to. You
If
know,
there's
wrap
a
it pretty
brand
good.
called
There's a
Hood
brand
Smoke.
called Hood Smoke.
There's
I didn't know if
definitely a
there's a
brand.
brand called Hood
There's
Smoke.
definitely a brand called
gotta-
Hood
you
Smoke,
gotta-
and they are coming for you.
You got to go up against me and my brother. See how
no.
I
Hood
implicated you?
Smoke. Hood
No.
Smoke. I'm not in it.
No,
I'm not in it.
He's
Hood
my
Smoke.
brother. You got to go up against me.
I don't do nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just relax. I chill. I don't do nothing. I don't fight. I don't smoke. I don't do nothing. I relax.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Where can we find you at, though, brother? Online? Wherever?
Online, gasgods.com,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, gasgodstx, Facebook, gasgods, and that's pretty much it right now. We about to pick up the website. It's about to kind of going big with the website now. We'll start being able to order everything on the site.
Okay.
On the shirts, trays, just everything, man. We kind of like, so I'm even thinking about doing something virtual. I'm kind of, I ain't want to just put it out there, but we working on something virtual too.
Put it out there, brother.
Nah.
Well, I mean that's interesting too because you talk about like the paraphernalia around drugs. It's interesting that certain drugs can get demonized, like marijuana, but it's like you can walk in almost anybody's house in America, a lot of houses, well-off houses, and they can have a cart for alcohol.
Yeah.
That's a drug cart.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's literally a drug. Like you are displaying your collection
That's how I look
of
at it.
drugs.
That's how I look at
Drugs.
it.
It's the same thing with you see people with their cigar stuff. That's a
You
drug.
can-
That's
you'll
a
go
box
to-
of drugs.
You'll go to someone's houses, right? Many friends of mine, and right in their living room, they're gonna have a humidor.
They display
Right?
it.
Yes.
That shit might cost like $3,000.
Of course.
Right? When you open it up, it's gonna be cigars, right?
Yeah.
Nice
Like, what's the
cigars.
difference between that? Say a pre-roll.
Yeah.
Right? So, that's what we say. We trying to kind of change the stigma, man. Like elevate it a little bit. We got a humidor about to drop, hopefully within the next month or two. Just some different products to raise the bar a little bit. So now you're not storing your weed in your top junk drawer in a shoebox.
You right.
In a sock.
Yeah,
Inside that thing.
yeah.
Okay.
You get it the first day, the next day it's dry. and I'm like,
yeah,
come
you
on,
know,
man.
Yeah, we gonna change it up a little bit, man.
What do you
So-
know about that?
We all know that I know nothing about this.
I'm telling mom. No, I'm
I think I've been arrested enough that she would know. But that was my past life. I haven't been arrested in years for marijuana.
Oh
So,
man,
it is
So,
what it is.
You're expanding out the brand. You got more products that are coming out. We're checking out Gas Gods or Gas Gods TX. We got the website coming. More
The
shirts.
website is up, right?
Okay,
But we just
okay.
gonna kind of like we haven't been doing our due diligence and keeping up with the website. So now I just hired somebody to tighten up the website.
Okay, good. Because I went to the website and I was like, under construction. I wanted to look and see the shirts and everything.
Yeah,
but
so I just hired somebody to tighten it up. So that's the thing too. Right now, I'm kind of bringing in, like now that people are more and more people hearing about the brand, they seeing like, oh, okay, this is cool, right? The easier it is for me to bring people on board, hire folk. So it's we in a good space right now.
I'm about to say because I was like, when we met, I already knew you.
Yeah,
Like you were like,
right.
hey, let me tell you about it. I said, sir, I already know exactly who you are. I was a big fan. I was getting ready to make my way over to you, but I appreciate the fact that you said something to me first.
oh my God.
So yeah.
no,
No,
no.
it's definitely working. It's definitely
That's
working.
good,
Matter of
man.
fact,
Praise
when-
God.
Yo, if y'all had Jack Freeman on the show,
We did.
We did.
You already did?
Friend
Oh,
of the
yeah.
show, man.
Oh, yeah.
Good people.
man, whenever you have him again, man, make him tell the story about how we met.
Oh, I will.
Oh, I definitely will. And
Because we're
Jack-
going to get him back,
We
Jack.
got to get Jack back on here, and we just got to make sure to save up because Jack will take his time. Jack has Jack and
The
Lenora.
longest.
Jack is first, and Lenora is second for their record for the longest podcast. Like
Wow.
they get to talking. I was like, we don't have to do anything. We just
That was probably on some gas. Anyway, that's what it is, man. We really want to thank you for coming by at the God. Ed stands for extra dank. I'm coining the phrase. I'm just gonna buy like all the domains for that, so he has to pay me. No, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, man, we really want to thank you for coming by.
I appreciate y'all having me, man.
I appreciate you being here. You are huge for all the listeners, the people who aren't watching. Golly, you look like a professional wrestler.
Oh,
My goodness. But this is once again, In My Humble Opinion podcast, where the opinions are humbled and the words aren't jumbled. I've been one of your hosts, Avery, like a very nice guy. This is also the co-host, Just Devon, and we've been here with Ed the God, Ed the Gas God. Everything that you want to call him are just Ed. Once again, in my humble opinion, thank you, good night, bang. H-Town, too sweet.
right on
H-Town, too
time.
sweet.
I didn't-
James Harden.